Hi, this is Blockchain Bad. Welcome to another episode of the Sui Smart Contract Development Series. Today, I'm going to be talking about option. Option is a type that represents an optional value, which may or may not exist. So, let's head over to VS Code. Let me give you an example. So now, we have this struct here, which has first name field, middle name field, and last name field. And also this function who takes in this argument and creates a new object and sends it to the user. Now, as we all know, there are cases where not everyone has a username. Some people don't have a username. So now, in cases like this, how do we handle it? So now, creating this new user, some of you might say we might just pass in an empty string and for us like just handle the middle case scenario. But that's not the best way of doing that. Let me give you a last scenario. Let me come down here. I have this game stopped. Let's say you're creating a game and it has a winner. Now, in this kind of scenario, when you're creating a new game, how do you pass in the winner? You know, there's no winner for now. Will you pass in an empty string as a winner? Well, remind you, where smart contacts, you must pass in an address. So, what address you passing? You don't know what to do, right? So now, um, move gave us a type that could be used to handle that. So now, for scenarios like this middle name, where it might be optional, we can just put in an option here. We can just write the keyword option. So and give it a type of string. Now this shows now this is optional. So it can be none or there must be a value into it. Also, for our function, our middle name, we will not just pass in the middle name. We have to pass in an optional um middle name, which is going to be of type of string. It's going to be option string. So now, right now, we cannot pass in our username, our middle name. Sorry, we cannot pass in our middle name as an optional value by creating the user. So now, let me add more function. So, um, let me write another function called let me say change our middle name, and this function can take in the user and it's going to be immutable reference of the user and also the name that I want to change to the new name and it's going to be of type string. I can write another function again. Let me call this one update missing user name. Sorry, username, middle name. Sorry, I made a mistake here. I was supposed to put a front keyword. Then this also takes the user and the name. Okay, we're going to be using some functions from the option module. So to see all the functions we have, you can head over to the option documentation. You would see we have a lot of functions. We have none, some, is none. So you can just come here and try to test out full service functions. So for now, I'm just going to be using some of these. So going back to our code, um, let's say we want to update um a missing username. So we want to only update users that have their username missing. So to do that, first of all, we could say user dot middle name is equal to name. This is wrong. This would not be correct because if you look at it, our middle name takes an option string, but we're passing a string here. So if you look at it now, the move compiler already told us that expected option of type string and giving string. So now to be able to update this, we have to make this string an option string. So to do that, I could say something like um name let's select option underscore name equal to, I could not say option sum, then I will not pass in the value which is name. So if you look at it now, this is now an optional string. So now I cannot pass it to our function. I cannot pass it into our objects. I cannot change. I cannot say something like um option name. So I was supposed to put a semicolon here. So that's it. So now we've been able to update um the middle name of a user. But right now our function says update missing username. Right now, even though the user has a username, we are still updating it. So to make sure that we're not updating user doesn't have a username, we can use the assert function. So if you don't know what assert is, we use assert when we want to check for things rather than using the if else statement. In the next video, maybe we'll talk about the if else statement. But right now, let's say um we do not want we want to check a particular condition, and if the condition is not met, this code should not be run. So that's what the assert is from. So now the compiler will check, okay, is this condition met with this assert in this assert block? If it is not met, it's not run. So that's what we're trying to do right now. So we want to check if the user has a username or not. So now to check if the username has if the user has a username, we can say option, then we can now say is none. So we're trying to make sure that there is the user does not have a username. So what I'm going to pass in, we're going to pass in user dot middle name. Sorry if I kept saying username, it's middle name I want to say. Then it takes in an immutable reference. So now, right now, we want to make sure that the user does not have a username. Then if the user doesn't have a username, it can go ahead and execute these two lines of code. Well, if the user already has a username, that is going to stop. It's going to reverse its direction and it's not going to work. So that's what this assert function does. I think maybe I will talk. I think I've spoken about option before. I've not spoken about it. Sorry, assert before. If I've not spoken about it, I'll create another tutorial video speaking about assert. So right now we are able to use the is not function from the option module and also the sum function. So right now, let me work on the other function called change middle name. So what I can do right now is copy and let me just paste this code. But right now, I only want to change the middle name if it exists. So right now, I can just say assert, then I'll say option. But right now, instead of using is null, I will say is sum to make sure that the user has a middle name before changing it. So I can now pass in my user dot middle name, but don't forget we have to make it an immutable reference. So that's it. Another function I'm going to be writing again, it's a function to remove the middle name. So let's say a user has a middle name and I want to remove the middle name. So I can now say public fun remove username. Sorry, not username. I keep saying username. It's middle name. I want to check if this has a middle name. Then I'll remove the middle name. So I have to pass in the user. Then as immutable reference, since I'm going to be changing user. Then to remove the username, sorry, to remove the middle name, I could say option. Then I can get the extract. Then I have to pass in the user dot middle name. But right now I have to pass it in as a mutable reference. So pass it in like this. Then this function returns the old username. So I have to pick it up. So I can now say let old user sorry middle name will now be equal to this. So after removing the middle name, I can choose to now return that, which is going to be a string. So I can now choose to return the middle old middle name. Again, I can add another function. Let's say I want to get the user's middle name. So I can write another function say get middle name. That's passing the user. Then this is going to return a string also. So I could say option then borrow. There's a borrow function to borrow the um the value in the option the optional value. So now what am I borrowing? User dot the middle name. So now when we see right now we have an error. It says expected option string expected immutable immutable reference. So we have to make this an immutable reference. Then also to return it. First of all, let me catch the value. Let me call it let's middle name. Then I can now return the middle name. So I still get an error here because our function expresses an output of string, but it's giving an option of immutable free string. So what you have to do now is to dereference it. And talk about dereferencing like 2 years ago. So if you not watch it, you can go back and watch it. So these are the reference the referenced variable. So I think that's all. We're able to use some functions for the option module. So you can, like I said, you can head over to the documentation and there are lots of function. Try to see how you can use them. So for now, let me deploy smart contacts. So to deploy this we client publish. So we deploy smart contacts. Let's try to call some of the functions. So normally if you want to call the function, let's call this first function create user. So normally if you want to create or call this function, we have to do Sui client call. But at this point, we can't do that for this function. We have to use PTB. Why? Because we're passing an option string, an option value. So our function as a function argument. Now let's call this function using PTB. So to that I'll say I'll do Sui client PTB, then I'll make a move call. So what am I calling? First of all, I have to put in my package ID, which I'll get from here. I'll just copy that. Then I'll put in my module name, which is options, and then my function name, which is create user. Then I'll pass in my arguments. So first of all, I'll pass in my name, which is going to be align in here. And I'll pass in my middle name. So for the middle name, for us to it takes in an option string, so we can't just pass in a string like that to work. It takes in an option string. So to pass an option string, we have to make it um and we have to make it an option string. So to do that, we have to make a move call. So this is why we need PTB. We have to make a move call. So move call. Then what are we calling? We are calling std option and sum. Just like if you look at our function, we did something like that here. So we have to make convert the name from a string to an option string. So in that we have to put in what we want to convert. So we have to put in the string we want to come back, and let me call it George. But it doesn't end there. You have to give it. We have to specify the type. So if you look at it, our function takes an option string. So we have to specify the type. To specify the type, you have to put an open and close angular brackets. Then after that, we have to specify like a string and string std. So I'll say std string, then string. So also specify the type, but not assign the value because I'm calling this function. So if I come here to this look at it, it returns an option element. So we have to pass in the type and it returns the value. So we have to pick up the value it returns. So that we need the value. So I would come here and I'll use dash as assign. Sorry, yes, assign to get the value. So and I'll store the value to the variable called middle name. So middle name. So after that, I'll be using that results of that transaction, which is the option for our name, that's the option string. I will not pass it to our new function. So I can just come here and click on my function. I'm going to pass in the middle name. Then after that, I'll pass in the last name, which will be junior. So I think I did everything correctly. So now we can now run this transaction. Okay, we got an error. Expected. Okay, let me click my in. Move the code option some. Okay, there's a mistake here. Delete user. My function name also. So it's called create user. So you need to call the function. So if I copy this created object, I copy it and head back to head back to solution and paste it over here. You notice we have our name, my last name, and the middle name. So let's say I wanted to call function the create user without my middle name. So let me come here now and I did not put my middle name. So right now, what I will do, I thought using options now, I'll use option none because I'm not asking the name. Then I'll tell you the data type the type argument, but I'll remove the value right now. So I'll call it again. So let me copy the page ID and head over to revision again. Um, let me see it. So you look at it now, we have an again period null because right now we're passing an option string, but that has no value. It's we have null. So just like your game logic, sometimes you might have winners and you might not have winners. So you want to update your winner after a while in the game. So after that, let me call the next function, which is update listing middle name. So to do that, actually right now it's producing quickly. I can take with PTB. Let me see this with PTB. But I can do it with a move call, but just gonna make it PTB. Let me just use PTB. So let me call this dates missing middle name. And then let me remove this move call here. And again. Then coming back here, our function takes two arguments, which is our packet ID, need to paste in that packet ID I copied, and also it takes in the name. Now let me put this as Jonas. So if I call this function, you would notice that here we have no page name, and if we call it the written name, the middle name will it's right. Call this function. Okay, sorry, another mistake. Since it's an address, I'm supposed to add at to specify that it's an address. I'm supposed to add the at symbol. So successful. If I head back to the to Sui Vision I refresh, you will notice that yeah, I now have the middle name. So if I go back again, if I to add the middle name again, that's a function to fill. Then we create correct action again. It's going to fail because of the assets that we have here. So it's going to fail. So if you look at it, line 23, aborted because the Ethereum exists already, but it's not known. So now once it can't play green, I can call this remove username this remove username function. So let me remove this. So I want to change this now to remove underscore middle name. So what that does is that it extracts the middle name, like it extracts the value from the option and leaves it as an empty value. So that's what this option extract does. It extracts from the value, returns it, and leaves it as null. So it's successful. If I go back to solution and refresh, you'll see that our name is back to null. So you can head over to the documentation. You see lots of functions on option. So you see lots of functions. You can practically with it and test it out. So that's it. I'll be giving you an assignment for you to be able to practice on options. So for your assignment question, create a game. Call the game Pass Finger. Then the game should have a struct called maybe game. Can call it you want to call it Pass Finger. Anything you want to call it struct, and it shall be winner field. Then also there should be a function called win. Then how the game work is that the first person to call the function wins the game. So the first person to call the function, you make um that object, that game object, you make um that that winner field to make the address is called the function winner. Only if there's no winner already to the game. So the assignment question is on the screen. So it's a simple assignment. I advise you try it out and make sure you use option and try to test out other functions. You can add more functions to the game. So for now, that is just the best to see the game can do. But add more functions to the game. Play with option. So that's it for options. If you have any question, feel free to ask. You can also hop to the Wolf book. Try to read more about options. You can go to the documentation, look at the functions. If you have any question, you can drop them in the comment section or my DMs are open to Telegram. Feel free. Okay. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.